Welcome to episode 79 of the Boosting Achievement ESL podcast. This one comes with a video. So if you're listening only, don't worry, I have the video for you. It is in the show notes and they're always at the same place, bit.ly/BA podcast, all in capital letters, and you're looking for episode 79. These are my top tips for how to start the school year. I've done this more than once, so you have access to videos where I talk about why these 5 things are so important. But this is the COVID-19 edition. So I'm going to talk to you about some very simple technology that we can use to start off the school year this way. And I'm really talking to any teacher, whether you are face-to-face and you're trying to keep kids socially distant from each other, or whether you're 100% online, or whether it's a hybrid model. Regardless of that, we need to start the school year with routines, trying to build relationships between us and the students and each other. Those things are still critical. So I'm going to use some very simple technology that would help you regardless of what my situation would be. I would do it this way. So I have these 5 non-negotiables. Let's take a look at them and we can look at what they used to look like and how I would have them look now. So I do have some other resources for you where you can look at why these things are so important, why these are my 5 non-negotiables. I want to point out that at the bottom of this video, you have a Padlet with many links and many resources. I have webinars for different things that you can do in remote learning, and the slides to this and the Padlet that I'm using today, all of that is at the bottom of each slide. Now, here are the 5 non-negotiables. This was before we were in a remote learning environment, before COVID-19. These were always the 5 things that I would make sure that we do. And I'm going to take you through each one of them and show you how I used to do them and how I would do them now. And again, we're going to use very simple technology. I'm only going to focus on 2 things. Kahoot, because it is so widely used and we can do so many things with Kahoot. We can teach with Kahoot. We can get very higher order in our thinking and our rigor with Kahoot. So why not use that from day one? And Flipgrid, because it offers an opportunity for students in a low stress way to produce some language. Let's take a look at how we could use these 2 things. If you're not familiar with them, again, there's a lot in the Padlet to help you, but these 2 are very simple pieces of technology. Simple. They're easy to ramp up. They're easy to ramp up. You could go right now and explore them and see that they're very intuitive. So let's move forward. The first one, low stress introductions. I teach language learners, but it really doesn't matter what students you have coming into your classroom. You want to know who they are and you want them to start getting to know each other. The way I used to do this was we would make name tents. We would make name tents. Students would have a sentence starter. My name is blank. I speak blank languages. Or I speak, or I'm from. So they would start to have conversations with some structured conversations where they could get to know each other and we could get to know them. We would have some strategies where maybe students walked around the room and when the music stopped, whoever you're closest to, have that conversation, show them your name tent. This is a big part of day 1. This is how I would do that now, or some things that are available to us. I would immediately go to that Flipgrid before class started. I would record on the Flipgrid. I would say who I am. I would give them a sentence starter, could share this before the first day of school, during the first day of school, after the first day of school. And I would still want students to have a sentence starter, but they would add their voice in 45 seconds or so. You can set that up however you want, but still have them have an opportunity to practice language. One of the great things about Flipgrid, if you don't know about it, is that you can practice until you say, yes, that's the one I want. You can cover your camera. You can put stickers on these things. You can put a book in front of the camera instead of your face. All of that's fine. We just need them to have some voice and have the opportunity to hear each other's voice. So that would be the first thing that I would do. I'd still do low stress introductions. The next thing that I would do, and we always did this on the first day of school, I happened to be teaching students who had no English language comprehension, many, but that's okay, because when you play a Kahoot, when you play an online multiple choice game, it lends itself to visuals and repetition and things like that, and you can slow it down. So I would still do that. Before, what it looked like was in my classroom, I would read the words on my whiteboard or active board, and they would say it and they would guess how many children do I have, where did I go to college, but I had the visuals to help with that. This was our first opportunity for me to read something and them to try to read it with me in unison and then try to say some words on their own. Now we're still going to do that. We're still going to do that. If I have kids physically distant in front of me, they can still do that, but I'm still going to capitalize on any technology that they have, because we can do this in a Zoom. We can do this in a Google Meet. I can still project and they can put answers in the chat. I can make these A, B, C, D and just tell everybody put A, put B. I can do it in front of me. And if students don't have technology in front of me, they can do a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I can make all the questions true or false. There's so many things that we can do, and I'm going to do it with content later, but this is an opportunity for me to share with the students how things about me in an engaging, interactive PowerPoint. But it's really a Kahoot that I'm not just blowing through. I'm going slowly through that. There's also ways to send these home where they can practice on their own, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I'm going to do the same thing either with the kids socially distant in front of me or in the Zoom. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create one or more Kahoots about the kids, because remember, they did some low stress introductions. So I know some things about them. Or I might give them a piece of paper to draw or write or give me a trivia fact about themselves. That's the way I used to do it. We used to do it on paper. They could draw, they could say, I am blank years old, or I have how many brothers or sisters. I just wanted them to give me one thing, but I can still do that. We used to make a Kahoot about the class, or maybe make more than one if 10 or 12 questions. So we could be playing those Kahoots over the first few days of school. And they're learning about each other, and they feel very honored when they see questions about themselves. So I would still do that. And again, I can get the questions from the Flipgrid. They can put their questions on the Flipgrid, or I could have them draw or put in the chat or send to me somehow trivia questions about themselves. Now, again, a cool thing about Kahoot is that I can assign these. We don't have to play them synchronously. We can play them asynchronously, and then when we come together, we can play them synchronously. Again, if we have low amount of technology at home, I can display the Kahoot and they can just put their guesses in the chat. I can be the only player and just be advancing through that multiple choice game. It's an opportunity for kids to be interactive. We need that. I cannot just lecture for the entire time that I have them in a virtual classroom. So, and some may be in front of me and some may be at home, or they all might be in front of me, but I can't put their heads together. I still need their voice. I still need for them to have an opportunity to be heard. So we can use a combination of Flipgrid and Kahoot to give kids voice and to have it be interactive. So I definitely am going to do low stress introductions. Definitely going to share about my life in an interactive game. Definitely going to make a game with the kids about them in different ways we could play that. And then I'm going to introduce, definitely very early, first day, second day, somewhere in there, the instead of I don't know poster. So this strategy is really called teach kids what to say when they don't know what to say. So we still want that. We still want to be able to call on anybody and not be a gotcha thing. We want to lower stress. So I work with language learners, but all kids need this in their back pocket. What do you say when you get called on and you don't know what to say? So we want to make a poster with the students. We used to do it where I made and wrote out a poster. What are some things that you could say instead of I don't know? If you're familiar with Seidlitz 7 Steps to a Language Rich Interactive Classroom, this is step one, the I don't know poster. Seidlitz Education sells some beautiful posters that tell kids what to say instead of I don't know. So all of that is still super important in our virtual classrooms or in our face-to-face but socially distant classrooms, physically distant classrooms. So it used to look like I made that poster with them. Now I can give them an electronic poster. I can still have that as part of the things they have at home at arm's length. I still want all of my students, including my kiddos who are brand new to English or brand new to literacy, to memorize, may I ask someone for help? Could you please repeat the question? Would you, and I'm modeling that, repeat the question. Could I have some time to think? I'm using gestures, I'm using visuals, I'm allowing native language translation so that everybody understands why this is important for you to have ready in case you get called on and you don't know the answer. It's okay not to know, but we have to have a way to answer so that you can feel confident in answering. So before I used to do it face to face and on a marker and in my classroom, I would still do that. But I would also have something that my students had electronically because we have to be ready to be back to online learning at any moment. So this needs to be the things that they'd have with them all the time, virtually or face to face. My last thing is that I'm going to create the norms for the classroom with the students. This is very important for how our environments run. What are the norms that you want for your classroom? There may be some that I don't have control over, like you have to come to the Zoom, things that my district or my principal or my school has set as rules. But I would offer you rules for our learning space, rules for our Zooms, or rules for my classroom when we're learning. The Flippin group, through their training, their Capturing Kids' Hearts training, they do a fantastic training of how to start those relationships between students and how we honor each other. And what they suggest is creating those norms, creating a contract with the students based on how they want to be treated. So many positive outcomes. I have a lot of resources for you if you want to know how I did this in the Newcomer classroom. But we're basically letting kids have conversations about how they want to be treated. And then we're taking very specifically, how do you want to be treated? How do you think your neighbors want to be treated? Your classmates? How do you want to be treated by me? And then the very last question is, how do you think I want to be treated? So this is not a quick activity. This is something they really have to think about. And of course, they're going to say respect, respect. But what does respect look like? When I worked with language learners, newcomers, I would toss a book onto a table. Does that look like respect when I'm passing out materials? Or placing it, and they would give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. We have the opportunity in our virtual environments um, to show images. I used to make a Kahoot with, is it okay to snatch things or is it okay to laugh at someone? But the images helped me teach that. So I would still do that and have them really think about, how do you want to be treated? What does that look like when you're taking a risk? When you're answering a question, what does it feel like when people are being respectful or when they're not? So I would still do that, but I'd probably utilize Flipgrid to give them a lot of opportunity to finish sentence frames like I would want, or it is important to, or an example of respect is, and then comment on another person's or pick another person's answer. Why does that one important to you too? Before we created the social contract, I would be capitalizing on this free app where students have voice. And then we would create the social contract based on what everybody agrees upon. Now, my students used to sign that contract, and we could change it throughout the year, but they took ownership of it. So an important piece of this to me is that I would come back to the Flipgrid and have kids again, once everybody in the synchronous opportunity or in class has agreed to it, I would have them go back and talk about that. and keep that grid that everybody agreed to this. Why do you think these rules are important? Why are you agreeing to these rules? Why do we can learn very, very fast in here, but there are some things that stop learning, and I don't want that for you. What do you think about that? So that I would have something on record where they agreed to all of these, all of the norms that we set as a class. I'm trying to capitalize on peer pressure in a good way, that everybody wants this. So those are the 5 things. Those are the 5 things that I would do. COVID edition, same 5 things I always did. They're just the things that I know are going to set us up for success throughout the school year. If you've read Harry Wong's book about the first days of school, you know that they are critical and they set us up for the rest of the school year. So we definitely want routines in there. We definitely want kids' voice. We want them to feel honored. We want them to feel like this is a safe space that you can come to. I want you to know me, and I want you to get to know each other, and I want to capitalize on what everybody brings. And we can do that. This is going to be a challenging year. Of course it is. We did not get into teaching because it was easy. We got into teaching because you can make a huge difference. And right now, we need you. And setting up the way kids feel in your learning environment is such an important part of what you're doing for the world. So I want to thank you. All right. So again, this Padlet and all of the show notes are available where all of the show notes always are. They are at the short link, bit.ly/BA podcast, all in capital letters. And you are looking for episode 79. All right. Thanks so much for listening or watching. I'm sending you good vibes for a strong start to the school year. Take care.